right, back on the Young Turks. So, as I was telling you, Fox News said, oh, you know what? We're not going to send a reporter into this nonsense, visit of Gaddafi's compound. They're just going to be used as human shields. But apparently they didn't mind sending somebody in as a human shield. Now, let me give you Jennifer Griffin's retraction of that story on Fox News Channel.
Hi, Greta. I just want to clarify something about my reporting earlier tonight and earlier today. Earlier today, I reported that Fox News had not gone to Gaddafi's compound, while journalists from other news outlets, such as CNN and Reuters, had in fact gone. I've since learned that Fox did indeed go. Tonight, I learned that although reporter Steve Harrigan opted not to go and instead remained back at his hotel, he wanted to stay on the air, I'm told, to provide full coverage of what was going on in Libya. He did, in fact, send a security guard with a camera to Gaddafi's compound with the journalists from the other news outlets. I did not know about that earlier today. I became aware of that this evening. That was my mistake, and I apologize for the error. But what is being lost in this discussion is that the Libyan government is using journalists as human shields. There is frustration among military officials that those journalists are going to those sites and have prevented airstrikes, such as the one that was called off by the British earlier today. And that is what we were trying to get on the air.
Again, we have a technical term for this in the news business. It's called heaps. She sounded like Tim Hardaway there in the middle. That was my mistake, my bad. I'm sorry, and I regret it. By the way, she still goes back to the human shield line. She's like, they're using journalists as human shields, like the one we sent in. Well, he's not really a journalist, so we didn't care that much about him. But, c'est la vie. Sad day for him. Unreal. All right, so now one more thing from Fox on Libya, and then we'll move on to other news stories. Sean Hannity, of course, has found 800 different ways to criticize the president. I remember during Bosnia, he thought sending in any U.S. intervention to Bosnia or Kosovo was disastrous, and because that was a Democratic president, so obviously all his actions were completely and utterly wrong. Later, when we took a much bigger intervention role in Iraq and Afghanistan, that was brilliant and smart and strong by President Bush. Shockingly enough, as we go into Libya, that also turns out to be a mistake, but also filled with weakness. Let's go to Sean Hannity and Oliver North discussing this here from a couple of days ago, so you have the proper context. By the way, listen for Oliver North's slip up in the middle, too.
By this president's inability, Colonel, to make a decision. Now, it took 6 months to give the troops that were requested by our leaders in Afghanistan. He was dithering. That was the phrase we used. And then he still didn't give them the troops they wanted. He didn't support the freedom fighters in Iran in 2009. He vacillated and took varying positions in Egypt and seems to be doing the same here today, more concerned about brackets, trips to Rio, and playing golf.
Look, he's on his spring break. Give the poor boy, give him a break. Look, here's the bottom line of this president. This is a man who tries to please everyone. He's got various factions in his own party. He's got various factions around the world. He's done nothing but apologize for America, literally since he's been in office. And now he's in a position where he has to be the commander-in-chief, and it's just beyond him.
Look, they're just not honest actors, man. They wanted, it's just a Republican propaganda outfit, man. The idea that Sean Hannity would ever give Obama credit for anything is beyond all imagination. And the idea that he wouldn't criticize him for two different things at the same time is also beyond imagination. Like, he's going to find every single way to criticize him. He's saying he's dithering and that he's indecisive, and they load up every talking point there is in the book Oliver North comes into with apologizing for Americans. But he took action here. No, he took it too late. He took it too little. He took it too much. That is not logically consistent. Who cares? We're Fox News. All our job is to do is to throw everything we've got at this guy and hope that it sticks. So they hated it when he didn't take action in Libya. They now hate it when he did take action in Libya. Is there anything in the world that Barack Obama could do that Fox News didn't hate? Other than completely and utterly agree with Republicans, the answer is no. So they're very clear on it. No question. So, all right, now on to other world news. Yemen. Oh, the president, Ali Abdullah Saleh, is in a lot of trouble. He's got people turning on him left and right. He had an air base in western province of Hodeidah. Hodeidah sounds like a fun town, although I bet it isn't. Anyway, their base commander has flipped on Saleh, and his Brigadier General Ahmed Sinani has announced his support for the rebellion. So the Brigadier General said, yeah, this base is now basically rebel territory. Good luck to you, Saleh. I'm outie. Then, if that weren't bad enough, the most powerful military leader in the country, Major General Ali Mohsin Al-Ahmar, declared his support for the revolt. Now, that's not a brigadier general here or a brigadier general there. That is a very significant development, obviously. The most powerful military leader in the country has flipped, and he is now with the rebels. Further defections. Yemen's representative to the Arab League, Abdul Malik Mansour, Gonzo, Audi 5000. See you. Wouldn't want to be you, Saleh. He's now with the rebels. And then Abdul Rahman Al-Uryani has also flipped. He is the Minister of Water and Environment. What are you going to do now, Saleh? You don't have any water or environment. Okay, he didn't turn off the water. This guy is known as the Al Gore of Yemen. What are you going to do without the Al Gore of Yemen? By the way, totally made that up. He's not known as the Al Gore of Yemen at all. I'm just kind of amused that even like lower level guys, so the water guys, like, I had enough with this Saleh character. I'm out of here. Okay, so it's of course a very serious issue, and many people have already been killed by Saleh's forces, and now Saleh's in a panic. And earlier he had said, okay, you guys, you are going crazy, okay? I leave in 2013, okay? Oh, yeah, I've been in power for decades. Fine, my term is up 2013, I leave. Then later, when he was in a bigger trouble after the water guy left, he's like, okay, 2012. We call it a deal. Come on, let's spit on it. Let's shake up. And the rebels were like, nah, I don't think so. But at one point, the rebels did offer, all right, we'll let you leave at the end of this year. And at that point, he was non-committal on it, didn't want to do it. He wanted to stay till later. Now that he's lost some of the most powerful military guys in the country, he's like, okay, yeah, that deal where I leave at the end of the year, maybe not so bad. Let's have another conversation about that one. I'll meet you in Hodeidah. No. So now the rebels are saying, no, my friend, you got to go now. Okay? So I don't know which way this turns out. Obviously, as you saw in Libya, there are many swings back and forth. And who knows, Saleh could wind up swinging back, in control. But, of course, the key for all these dictators is two things. The army and the money. Once you lose the army, those are the guys with the guns. You don't have a chance. Once you lose the money, you're probably going to lose the army anyway. So the money is also incredibly important. Here, I don't know what his status with money is, but we do know he's beginning to lose his army. And that's when you simply don't have a choice. That's what happened to Mubarak. No matter how much he wanted to stay, when the army said, we will not shoot those guys, you have to leave, he didn't have a choice. It appears for the moment being that Saleh is headed in that direction, which is very good news. Of course, it's good news for people who care about democracy, by the way, and people who are against tyrants and dictators. Don't get me wrong. It could be terrible news for us down the road for our interests. I'm keeping it real here, okay? Because a lot of the guys that are protesting Saleh in Yemen, let's say that they're not in an incredibly pro-American mood. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Some of them are secular, some of them aren't. Some are for democracy, and some definitely aren't. So I don't want you to get deluded into thinking, and I don't think anybody is, but just to be clear, once we have Saleh out of government, flowers will bloom in Yemen and they will want to party on MTV. Maybe, but maybe they'll want to party with Al-Qaeda instead. So keep that in mind. Now that, to me, is not a good enough excuse to keep dictators in power. So that's why I'm overall encouraged by the movements to get these dictators out throughout the Middle East. And that's my position. All right. So now, one more. Syria. Man, I don't know why. I always keep thinking about that song from Billy Joel. We didn't start the fire. Well, in this case, we didn't start the fire. The people in the Middle East did. I think that maybe the internet did in a lot of ways, and Al Jazeera did by showing the protests all over the Middle East. It's now spread to Syria. Syria is, of course, in a little bit of trouble here, as a lot of these dictatorships are. They've already killed 10 civilians, and now in the southern city of Dira, they have killed 6 more people in an attack on the Omari Mosque in that southern city. And apparently the people there have been protesting for 6 days, challenging the Ba'ath Party rule. They are particularly pissed about the repression by the secret police, headed by the cousin of Bashar al-Assad, the so-called president of the country. And that cousin is in Dira province, and they had enough. The Assad government struck back. First, they cut off the electricity in the area, and then the telephone services, and that's when they knew the attack was coming, and an attack did come, killing 6 civilians, including a doctor from a prominent Dira family, Ali Ghassab al-Mohammed. With his death, my guess is that the people of Dira are not going to be happy. Look, again, what we do here is we bring you the reality, not what we wish the reality was. The reality is if people in the poor or the middle class get killed, that might have an effect. And in Tunisia, that it had an awesome and amazing effect, right, when the guy lit himself on fire. But when people in prominent families or rich families die, that winds up usually having a greater effect, because then the power structure gets pissed and goes, oh, wait a minute, now this touched us. You killed our son. And all those people get mobilized to work against the overall power structure in the capital. So, he might have lit a fire here that he might not be able to control. We'll see how that turns out. When one of the other protesters, Loai Hussein, who has a long history of protesting government, has been rearrested. And one of the other reasons that people are mad is because Assad opened up the country to private enterprise. Now, that sounds pretty good, right? Except, of course, what happened was his lackeys and cousins and family all got rich off of it because they, of course, controlled all of the so-called private enterprise. And one of the things that has made people so angry is one of the cousins of Assad, Rami Makhlouf, has apparently taken a tremendous amount of money for himself, and that's not sitting well with the people of Syria. So we'll see how that plays out in Syria. Okay, now, Jesus Lord mercy, I'm going to run out of time. I haven't even gotten to crazy Republicans. All right, you know what? No more breaks. Let's go through many other stories that we've got for you guys. So, first, before we get to the crazy Republicans, 2 great proposals, one in the Senate, one in the House. We told you about the one in the House before. It's Jan Schakowsky's idea of taxing millionaires. She would raise the income, the highest marginal rate, to 45% for people making $1 to $10 million a year. And that would go up gradually all the way to 49% if you're making over $1 billion a year. Okay? Now, that only hits millionaires for the extra dollar that they get above $1 million. Okay? Now, very similar proposal in the Senate by Bernie Sanders. He would just do a surtax of 5.4% on income over $1 million. Again, it only hits millionaires. Schakowsky's proposal would raise $79 billion. Bernie Sanders' proposal would raise at least $50 billion. And what they're saying is, hey, you want to talk about shared pain and shared sacrifice? No problem. Let's have at it, Hoss. If you're going to do these spending cuts, you should also balance the budget by doing shared pain with the millionaires in the country, okay? Remember, the Republican draconian cuts are $61 billion. Schakowsky's blows that away. Just this extra tax bracket for the millionaires raises $79 billion. Sanders almost gets to the $61 billion himself with just a 5.4% surtax for a short period of time. Now, if you want to continue that, I think it makes a lot of sense. We'll see. Now, how has the proposal been met by the White House so far? Remember, the White House is supposed to be Democratic. Here's Bernie Sanders' quote on that. We have not heard, and I'm extremely disappointed but not surprised, but we have not heard that the president has indicated that he's interested in coming up with revenue, just that he wants to negotiate with the Republicans on spending cuts. As usual, disaster. I was about to say the Republican White House. The so-called Democratic White House, in this case, saying, no, we don't want to touch the rich at all. What we want to do is more spending cuts on the middle class. I'm sick on top of everything else, and I'm out of water. Okay. Fun for everybody. Woohoo! So, next story. Meanwhile, as some of the Democrats in the House and the Senate are saying, hey, you know what? Maybe we should have actual share sacrifice and the millionaires chip in by getting taxed just a little bit more so they could help balance the budget. Of course, the leadership on the Republican side saying absolutely not. Grover Norquist, the leader of Americans for Tax Reform, claims to have spoken to these guys, and Norquist told The Hill, quote, I've talked to the Senate leadership and House leadership. They're not voting on tax increases, and they know that. Okay. Now, in case you think Norquist is full of it, because he might be, here are some quotes from those same leadership in the House and the Senate for the Republicans. Just a little while ago, McConnell said recently on Morning Joe, quote, I don't think we have a problem in this country because we tax too little. I think it's because we spend too much. And I think it's clear, given the election last November, we will not be raising taxes. Okay? And spokesperson for John Boehner said, quote, Speaker Boehner has never voted for a tax increase, and that isn't going to change. So, shared sacrifice from the Republican side, from the millionaire side? Oh, hell no. Okay? Are they actually interested in balancing the budget by increasing revenue? Hell no. No, they just want to redistribute wealth from the from the poor and the middle class to the rich. That's their objective. Now, there is a ray of hope, though, because Norquist claims that he also spoke to Coburn, Crapo, which is an awesome name, and Chambliss, who are all Republican conservatives who've been negotiating with the Democrats on a big budget compromise. And they do have taxes on the table. Norquist claims that he spoke to all three of them, and they all promised that they will not, in under any circumstance, raise taxes. Apparently, that part is not true. When they asked about that to Coburn's spokesperson, John Hart, here's what he said. Quote, Grover here's what he wants to hear. Dr. Coburn has been arguing for many years in word and deed that the problem is overspending, not under taxation. That said, he strongly disagrees with ATRs, meaning Americans for Tax Reform. ATRs believe that every distortion in corporate welfare subsidy in the tax code, such as that for ethanol, is a tax cut that needs to be preserved. That's interesting. So he's saying all these things that Americans for Tax Reform are saying are tax cuts, like our subsidies for ethanol, et cetera, they're not tax cuts. They're breaks for special interests. Hey, we're making progress. That's an important break right there. He continued, trusting Washington to pick winners and losers in the tax code should be an anathema to conservatives. ATR's odd definition of tax purity is an argument for tax deferment, tax complexity, more spending, and unsustainable borrowing. Look, if they're serious about that, that's great news. Now, I'm a little worried because, of course, what they want to do, the Republicans and the Deficit Commission overall agreed to this, is they want to lower, of course, the corporate tax rate, the individual tax rate, and then take out all these loopholes, exemptions, subsidies, etc. As I've said before, that might not be such a bad deal if they genuinely meant it, right? Because I hate the tax breaks and the subsidies. It's just the government picking winners and losers, as Coburn's spokesperson says, right? The problem is you lower the rates, and then later they reinsert the loopholes and subsidies, and then we're stuck with all those same things and the lower rates. So that's my concern. But at least here, they're not saying, no way, we will never raise taxes under any conditions, even if it means taking away a subsidy for ExxonMobil. So they're at least open to that conversation. That's a good thing. When they ask Crapo and Chambliss, where's my Beavis and Butthead sound effect when I need it? Crapo. Anyway, they said they referred to their earlier letter to Americans for Tax Reform, where they said, our pledge is to protect taxpayers, not special interests, meaning that they're on the side of Coburn, that they might actually take out some of these loopholes and subsidies. So you can call that good news. All right, let's see how it actually turns out, though. This is just talk. They haven't taken any action yet. Okay, now, I could do this. I don't know. Maybe we save that for another day. Oh, we're running short on time. Disaster. Okay. All right. Let me give you just one cut that Republicans have proposed recently. So we've been telling you about how, of course, they're protecting, the rich, et cetera, and they refuse to do any tax cuts. We just gave you quotes from Boehner and McConnell saying, they refuse to do any tax increases. Boehner and McConnell saying that. Here's one cut that the Republicans have proposed. It is $156 million for the Centers for Disease Control. They would be cutting funding for immunization and respiratory diseases. Winning. Now, anybody can see that that might be fairly disastrous, right? Because here's the thing about disease. It spreads. Like they think, oh, poor people get sick. Who cares? Got it. I don't know if you know this, but disease doesn't know the difference between a poor guy, a middle-class guy, and a rich guy. I'm sure they think their ass is protected and they're going to be just fine. But it's a terrible idea for all of us, right? And speaking of which, in California, apparently we have experienced the worst whooping cough outbreak in the last 50 years. 10 infants have already died, and 6,400 reported cases are out there in California, okay? So now Governor Schwarzenegger had already cut some of the funding in this area. I don't know if the funding related to the whooping cough outbreak. I do know that cutting funding, whether it's at the California level or at the federal level, is not good in the middle of an outbreak and could be problematic if we have more outbreaks. And this is not where I would do the cuts. And by the way, Ezra Klein wrote a good piece about this, and not this specifically, but his piece overall was like sometimes some spending cuts actually wind up costing you more money. Now, this is a great example of it, because if you have a larger outbreak, the government's going to have to respond anyway. They're just going to have to spend 10 times as much money or maybe 100 times as much money trying to contain the damage, which they could have contained if they'd spent the money in the first place to preventing it, right? And Ezra points out other places where so-called spending cuts don't help. For example, with the IRS. For every dollar of enforcement at the IRS, you get back $10 of revenue from tax cheats, okay? These are people who are totally avoiding their taxes. When you spend a dollar to go chase them, you get $10 back in revenue. So when you cut the IRS, which is what the Republicans are planning to do, you're actually going to lose 10 times as much revenue. Now, that makes no sense if you care about balancing the budget. But it does make sense if you care about protecting tax cheats. Now, remember, a lot of the rich and the corporations have offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. They're the ones doing, as they would call it, tax avoidance. So, of course, they send in the Republicans to say, hey, you know what? Get that IRS off our back. We're not too happy about that. So they feed the Republicans money. The Republicans then turn around, cut funding for the IRS, and the tax cheats keep avoiding paying their taxes. And so where do the taxes fall then? On us, the rest of us, to cover the tab, because you and I can't afford offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. We don't have the fancy accounts and lawyers. And that's how we get screwed. So these spending cuts, I don't even think they're a penny wise. But if they are a penny wise, they're definitely a pound foolish. All right. I got to give you crazy Republicans. I'm running out of time. I keep checking my watch. Okay. Let me give you just two for today, okay? Save more for later. Herman Cain is a guy who was at one point one of the owners of Godfather's Pizza. He now does a talk show. He's got a lot of hype on the conservative side. He did pretty well in one of the crazy Tea Party polls. And everybody's excited about him because he's a real conservative. He doesn't compromise. Well, I guess that's somewhat true. He was doing an interview with Christianity Today. They'd asked him about, hey, you remember one time you were you had a doctor by the name of Abdallah and that concerned you? And, how did you allay that concern? They were referring to an old story, and in that old story, he said that he was relieved once he found out that he was a Lebanese Christian, of course. Because if he was a Lebanese Muslim, well, then obviously he can't be a good doctor. By the way, perhaps the most famous doctor in the country right now, Dr. Oz, is Turkish. I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying. But of course, Herman Cain wouldn't want him operating on him. By the way, Dr. Oz operated on my uncle and did a great job, and he's alive today, thanks to Dr. Oz. But of course, if he was a Christian, I'm sure it would have come out much better. Anyway, when asked about Muslims in America, he got a little bit more specific. He says, first of all, look, I will allow them to practice their religion freely. Oh, well, are you not merciful? Well, thank you very much. But he adds, quote, the role of Muslims in America is not to convert the rest of us to the Muslim religion. That I resent. And so I push back and reject them trying to convert the rest of us. And based upon the little knowledge that I have of the Muslim religion, they have an objective to convert all infidels or kill them. Well, one part of that quote is accurate. You have very little knowledge of the Muslim faith. Look, it's amazing because he must not know any Muslims. I mean, obviously he doesn't. He got freaked out by the name Abdallah of his doctor. And since I grew up in a Muslim family, I happen to know a lot of Muslims. And first of all, none of them give a damn about converting Herman Cain, let alone killing him. Look, are there Muslims in the world that want to either convert or kill people? Yes. Are there Christians in the world who feel the same way? Yes, right? Now, you can argue that in the Middle East there are more Muslims in that category. Okay. But if you think that's all Muslims, you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. The Muslims here in America have no interest in killing you or most of them in converting you. You know who wants to convert you? Christians. They do it all the time. They send missionaries all over the world. And if you've ever got hoodwinked by a pretty girl into a Bible study class and then got thumped over the head with a Bible, you know about people trying to convert you. That's the oldest trick in the book. In college, it's like, oh, we have this great thing. You want to get together for like dinner or something? And the guy's like, oh, Cenk, what's going on? This hot chick's inviting me to dinner or something. And then you come in and they're like, oh, Cenk with the Bible. You're like, oh, what happened? Turns out they're Bible thumpers trying to convert you. Now, luckily, they're not going to kill you or anything. But I'm not like Herman Cain, who believes idiotically that the entire religion is based on that, right? So, look, if a guy like this got into power, which he luckily won't, how scary would that be? What an incredibly perverted way of thinking about a religion with over 1 billion people in the world. All right. By the way, to give you a sense of how perverted, Herman Cain's way of thinking is on a lot of issues, Matt Lewis interviewed him for the Daily Caller, and when he asked him about an old anecdote about his mother warning him not to drink from the water fountains reserved for whites back in the days of segregation, she said, make sure you drink from the water fountain for African Americans. He said, quote, we looked at each other and said, the water tastes the same. What's the big deal? Oh, come on, Herman. Jesus, Lord mercy. Now, Matt Lewis comes in and says, no, it's just that Cain wanted to express the absurdity of segregation. That's not what that quote says. That quote clearly says, oh, what's the big deal? We don't get to drink from the white fountain. We're fine. We know our place. Gee, I wonder why the conservatives like him. Huh? I don't know. I'm going to have to put some thought behind that. Okay, now, one last one. Mike Pence is very, very clear. Okay, he does not mind Title X. He was recently being interviewed about this, and he told interview on the radio, quote, I've never advocated reducing funding for Title X. Oh, that's very positive. Now, you remember Title X, of course, provides money for health care, for some of the poor, underprivileged, etc., or whoever is seeking it, and birth control, but actually health care more than anything else. Now, some of the Planned Parenthoods do provide abortion, but they cannot use Title X money for it, okay? Now, some argue that the money will get mixed around, etc., but Title X strictly prohibits money being used for abortion. So he says, Pence says, conservative Republican, I've never advocated reducing funding for Title X. He continues to say Title X, Title X. Title X clinics do important work in our inner cities. They provide health services for women and children that might not otherwise have access to them. Well, isn't Mike Pence lovely? Okay. You want to know what the reality is? Mike Pence introduced a bill to cut all funding for Title X. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, that don't make no kind of sense. I would agree with you. What happened is Pence goes and brags to the, pro-life lobby and abortion groups, etc. Oh, yeah, man, I'm cutting Title X. Those some of my bitches won't be allowed to do abortions anymore. And he said he's one of the guys who makes the argument, oh, they slush the money around and somehow it gets to abortion anyway. No. But it's actually a deeply unpopular opinion. So when he's on the radio, he says, me? Oh, no, I love Title X. Me? Oh, no, I've never advocated cutting Title X. These politicians amaze me, man. They are the most brazen liars you will ever meet in your life. The guy introduced a bill to kill all of Title X funding, goes on the radio and says, oh, yeah, I've never advocated that. Unreal, man. The other part of it is unreal how stupid they are. Like, we can't read a bill? We know what bill you introduced. But we don't know when you go on the radio? I guess they think, oh, well, that was a small station or something. We're not going to hear it. We have access to all of it. Or they think, hey, you know what? It doesn't really matter how much I lie. It doesn't matter how brazen it is. I'm just going to collect a lot of money and run a lot of deceptive ads right before the election and win anyway. So who cares? I'll tell whatever lie I want. But this one, man, it really takes a cake. Mike Pence, nicely done. I'm even impressed by how big a lie this is. All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, in one of the animal stories I love, might religion be going extinct? Uh-oh. Drums. Come back.
Welcome back to TYT. Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur with you. You know, that is not a bad song considering that it's royalty free. Like, a couple of them are a little questionable, but that song has got a good beat. I'm digging it. All right, we got a great hour ahead for you guys. Later on, I'm going to talk about the lap band surgery. Is it safe? There's a new study out that questions the safety of the lap band surgery. And also, we have a fiance or a woman who is suing her ex-fiance. I'll tell you why, and we might get into a little debate as to whether or not she deserves the money from the lawsuit. So, but first, I want to say happy birthday to Cenk, who is now no longer a young Turk. He is now definitely a middle-aged Turk.
That's a really nice way of saying happy birthday. I really appreciate it.
Calm down.
I Michael
Schur is still older than you, so you could feel better about that.
Okay, well, wow. My understanding is that doesn't really change as I get older. Michael also continues to get older.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes. Thanks for crapping on my birthday. I appreciate it.
No, I'm just joking. Come on, calm down. You're not that old. But anyway, did you enjoy your birthday? Did you have fun? Did you go wild and crazy?
I definitely did not go wild and crazy. I definitely did enjoy my birthday. My family's in town, which is great. Right before the show began, Pro started to cry a little bit, so we had to move him to a different room. But, if he wakes up again, maybe I'll bring his fat ass up here.
Oh, you should. Yeah, definitely.
Put him on the desk?
Fun. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be a lot of fun.
With his big fat cheeks. All right. Anyway, so I had a good time on my birthday. And yes, I'm 41, meaning it is inarguable that I am middle-aged.
There's nothing wrong with that,
and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's no argument to be made that 41 is a good age. You could make the argument for a lot of different ages. 41, it really isn't one of them. But I'm trying to jump in it anyway.
By the way, DirecTV came up with a brand new ad featuring the Russian guy who says, I jump in it. And it's equally as awesome. I like it. It features a miniature giraffe on a treadmill. I mean, you can't get much more creative than that. Did you like it?
Yeah, I saw it. It was pretty good. I was trying to come up with I was trying to see what the takeaway lines from it are. It wasn't bad. It's not as good as I jump in it and I has it. But it was still good. We'll have to get some sound bites out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's jump in it right now with some stories. So, Cenk, you weren't here to do the story with us. I did it with Michael Shore, but I have an update on it, so I want to bring it back. So, earlier in the week, Apple accepted an app that was created by Exodus International, and what the app seek to do, decided to do, was try to help homosexuals or gays convert into straight men and women. Okay, they said.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. The whole purpose of this app was basically to make gay people straight. Now, Change.org noticed the app and they said, why would Apple accept this? Not only did they accept the app, they gave it a 4+ rating, which indicates that it has no objectionable material. Okay, that it's a completely fine app, it's family friendly, everyone should download it. So Change.org was upset about it.
Well, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Wait a minute, it makes sense. If you're gay, wouldn't you want to be straight? And how would you do that other than through an app? I don't know why people are complaining about this.
Yeah, seriously, it's not a big deal at all. You know, it's not deceptive at all. It's not bigoted at all. They're just trying to help the population. That's what they do.
Yeah.
So Change.org was upset about it, and they decided to start an online petition. Well, that online petition got 100,000 signatures, and Apple finally pulled the app off their iTunes store. Okay.
They pulled it.
Yeah, they pulled it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's the whole update of the story. And I love that they pulled it, and I love that so many people, signed that online petition to get rid of the app. But still, going back to the fact that Apple not only approved the app, but gave it a 4+ Apple rating, is just crazy, especially considering the fact that Apple has a long history of denying app developers that have, risque images of women in their applications. I love that they're willing to reject that, but they're not willing to reject an app that is bigoted, deceptive, and just plain hateful.
Now, I hear you on all that. You know my stance, which is just let them go. Let everybody have their own opinion, and then we fight back with our opinion. I know Apple's a private company. Of course, they can make any choice they like. I think they should approve the more risque apps. I think my position on this is that I wouldn't have minded if they approved this app. I think the 4-star rating is outrageous, of course. Mm-hmm. There's definitely offensive issues regarding this. Look, some people think that gays can be cured. Now, I think that's mental, and I think it does great damage to those people who go into those programs, and I feel sick about it. But at the same time, it's a free country, and so if they've got an app for their crazy way of thinking, I'm a little uncomfortable with banning it altogether.
The thing with Apple is they're so inconsistent. And I agree with you. They're a private company, so they can do whatever they want, right? But you can't ban ads or applications that have naked pictures and then keep applications that have other offensive material. That just doesn't make any sense. Either don't ban anything at all, or if you're going to ban things that have questionable material or offensive material or sensitive material or non-family friendly material, then you got to ban all of the applications that have that kind of content.
I'm actually going to go further, though, in defending them because, look, I don't like the ban on risque material, but I see the difference between, hey, these are nude pictures we're not going to be in favor of, as opposed to offensive written material, right? Mm-hmm. Because it depends on who finds it offensive. Obviously, for very, very good reason, gay Americans find that app incredibly offensive, right? But other people will find our material offensive, and they will find Rush Limbaugh's material offensive. If Glenn Beck had an app, should it be banned for being offensive? I say no way, no. And who knows? One of the conservative hosts might agree with gay conversion and stuff. So does that mean that app should be banned because he said it in the show? No way. So that's why I think it's a tougher line to draw than others believe.
Right. It is a tougher line. I think the safe way to play it is to just not ban anything. But Apple doesn't want to play that game. They want to be considered a family-friendly company. So they get to make the decision as to what they ban and what they keep. And I just think it's stupid to ban naked pictures. Like, why are we so afraid of human anatomy? Why are we afraid of someone's breasts? Like, why is that considered offensive and objectionable material? I just don't get it. So I don't know how their rating system works. It doesn't really make sense.
All right, we have finally found the quote of the day. I don't know why we're afraid of people's breasts.
All right, I have another update for you, Cenk, and you're going to love this. So I'm reading through the wires, okay, and I find a story, and it's an update on Rodell, okay? Rodell is old school TYT. His full name is Rodell Vereen, and he's a South Carolina man who got caught having sex with the same horse not once, but twice. And he was given a 16-month jail sentence. He has served his sentence, and he is now back out on the streets. So...
Oh, Rodell! I love Rodell. That's why Anna knows I'm going to love this update. Now, here's the thing. You got to be fair to Rodell, okay? Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Sorry. We're going to have to deal with this for at least a week.
So let me give you a little more information.
Hold on.
Go ahead, Cenk.
Sorry. Here's the thing about Rodell. He loves that horse. He wasn't cheating on the horse. He wasn't going around to all the different fillies. He was sticking with the one horse. And they locked him up for that. Can you imagine? Poor Rodell.
No, this story is so disastrous in so many different ways. First of all, we didn't know this until now. He claims that he has schizophrenia. So at the time that he was having an affair with the horse, he wasn't taking his medication. That's what he claims. Okay, I don't know if that's true. But he went and had sex with this horse, okay? The owner caught him and, basically shooed him away and said, don't come back. He showed up again. Well, before he showed up again, the owner noticed that her horse was getting infections again. And she's like, why is my horse getting infections again? Is this dude showing up in the middle of the night and having sex with my horse? So she basically, hid in the bushes overnight to see if he would come back. And he did. He came back and tried to do the same thing. And that's when she held him at gunpoint and called the cops and had the cops arrest him. And that's why he was sent to jail for buggery. Buggery and trespassing. I love that word, buggery. But, so...
All right. This story has so many great elements to it. It has all the classic TYT elements you need. We have an affair with a horse. He's having an affair. It's not just a one-time thing, man. He's quite serious about this horse. Second of all, you got a woman hiding in the bushes. That's always great. You've got a guy giving an infection to a horse, and you've got buggery. Okay. That's the kind of story I love. It's fun for everybody. Rodell, leave that poor horse alone. No. That horse isn't interested in you. You keep making it sick.
Yeah, Cenk, and you're missing the one element of this story that also makes it old school TYT. His mugshot. He looks so sad and pathetic in that mugshot. What did I do? How did I get myself into this? Anyway.
How did I get caught buggering that horse again? I know I wanted to go back again and again and again. But why did I get caught? Why was she hiding in the bushes? Okay. I think, though, he's most sad that while he's in jail, he won't be able to see his lover anymore.
Right. I wonder if he gave the horse a name. Did he make it personal?
There's no question. There's no question. I don't even want to get into it. Right. But look, in all seriousness, you had to be a downer and bring up his mental health here. And obviously the guy's got issues.
Right.
And if he's got schizophrenia, of course I feel bad for him. I feel worse for the horse. But, poor Rodell. I hope he does get help.
All right. You're going to love this next story, Cenk. Researchers use census data from the past 100 years to figure out whether or not religion is still thriving in every country. And what they found is that there are at least 9 countries in the world where religion may become extinct. Okay? And this is a theory that you had a while ago. So it's interesting to now see scientific research that backs up your claims that religion will at some point become extinct. So what they did, as I mentioned, is they looked at census data, and they looked at the nonlinear dynamics of religion, okay? And what they found was that in Australia, Austria, Canada, the Czech Republic, Finland, Ireland, the Netherlands, New Zealand, and Switzerland, those 9 places in the world are probably going to see not only a rapid decline in religion, but religion may become extinct in those parts of the world. Okay, it's pretty incredible.
Now, here's the thing, right? Now, I always love science backing up my theories, and I appreciate it. But of course, when you dive into these details, it's a little more complicated than that. One of the things that they studied was the decline of languages, and they saw certain phenomenon regarding those. One of which is that after you reach a certain tipping point, it doesn't make sense anymore to use that language because it has too much cost associated with learning the language, keeping the language going, etc., when there is another dominant language, for example, Spanish in Peru as opposed to a local language in Peru that was eventually dying off. And what that leads to is the eventual absolute extinction of that language, okay? Now, a lot of people will rightfully say language and religion are not completely related, that they are different phenomenon, and that there might be a need for religion within the human instinct, that is different from the need for a specific local language as opposed to language overall. Those are all good and fair points. Now, what the scientists here are saying is you can see similar phenomenon in terms of how things are slowing down in religion, and when a larger community is no longer attached to it, it also has a deteriorating effect on the remaining people who continue to be religious, and hence leads towards extinction. There's good arguments on both sides, and I've said all along, there's many religions that have gone extinct throughout our history. We just, don't focus on those, but there's been, a tremendous amount of those religions that went away. So does that mean that our current religions can go away in some places? Absolutely it does. It might mean that another religion at some point comes up.
Right.
But those things can coexist.
Right, that's what I was going to mention. Certain religions that exist today could basically decline and become extinct. However, it's very possible that there will be an emergence of new religions. And, there have been other theories behind that we've talked about on the show, where, the whole appeal of religion is the social aspect of it. The fact that it allows people to come together, and just that social aspect alone gives religion a certain kind of utility, right? So people will always, find religion appealing if there is that aspect of it, where they can get together, socialize, and be part of a group. Every human wants to be part of a group. So that's the whole argument of why religion will always continue to exist, even if these certain types of religions go extinct.
Let me add a new theory, which I just came up with on the spot. I think that a new religion will rise, because the old religions have significant problems. As we've talked about before, they don't make any sense in the modern world because they were written 2,000 years ago or 1,400 years ago, and they've got the sprinkling of the goat's blood, and they've got don't mix the 2 different cloths, hate the gay people, don't eat shrimp, all this nonsense, right? These rules that don't make any sense. And at some point, people are actually going to read those texts. It takes a long time, and people every once in a while somebody pick up the Bible and go, "Really? That's what's in it?" I know I did that with the Quran and the Bible. But people need religion. I mean, they might, that might change over time too, but certainly there's a certain percentage of people that need religion. And so I think that a new religion will be much vaguer. It won't have all those rules you can disprove. It'll be more personal, like everybody will get to have a God that they excuse me, that they can craft honestly in their own image. Okay, I know it's goofy, but that's the reality of it. So they can feel comfortable with that God, and then it'll be a religion that unifies everybody and says everybody's equal. That was one of the great appeals originally of Christianity and certainly of Islam. But I think it'll have those 3 elements, and then it will spread like wildfire.
All right.
Boom, I just called the rise of a whole new religion on the Young Turks. Go.
Congratulations, Cenk. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we will talk about a student newspaper in California that made fun of Native Americans. I'll tell you what university this happened at and whether or not the article is racist. We'll be back with that and more.